So my name is David Hobbs, and this webinar, although I probably do look to use that term a little bit loosely, is on the theme of transformation in shared services. And the focus is going to be on, because firstly, why a different viewpoint is necessary. Secondly, looking at the, in effect, the fusion of human and technology, and then looking to maximize the value that shared service operations can provide to the business. I wanted to reference, actually, before I go on, that we are going to be recording this webinar because we are going to distribute it to you all and some others who are unfortunately unable to make that point. So I just wanted to make that point at this stage. So for those on the line who don't know me, I'm a key account director with Go Beyond Partners. Now, we're a business built on 20 years of experience. We combine award-winning consulting and training, some innovative technology, and next-generation managed services. And I think that's across a range of organizations, such as Willis Towers Watson, HSBC, P&O, Spire Healthcare, just to name a few. And I don't give that necessarily purely as a demonstration of our credentials, but more so just to give the audience a view of the breadth of our experience, the diversity of context for the work and the discussions we have, which allows us not only to see and leverage best practice from different sectors, but also understand common themes across those. So I'm also joined today by my colleague, Simon Kuhlbeck, who's the Managing Director of our Enterprise Practice. So Simon, would you like to just quickly say hello?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody.
Thank you. So on a personal front, having led some large-scale projects across manufacturing, banking, and outsourcing in this space, the area of shared services is of a real personal particular interest to me. So not only do I see the opportunity for them to become digital, disruptive technology frontrunners within their organizations, but it is truly a sector agnostic function and therefore a huge opportunity to share cross-sector best practice. And as a business, actually, Go Beyond Partners, we're definitely seeing a real noticeable shift in the narrative around shared services. And that's either directly from the shared service functions and leaders themselves who can reposition themselves within the business, or actually the business's expectations of them. For this reason, over the course of the past couple of months, we've encapsulated some of our thinking in a series of opinion pieces, and also invited shared service leaders to provide some of their insights about the priorities and challenges that they face. And it's probably going to be of no surprise that there's some real consistency in themes for those insights, and it was for this reason that we're hosting this sessions. So firstly, for people to benefit from some of that thinking that we formed based on our experience working with a number of organizations, but also, and to a certain extent, actually more importantly, to provide a forum for peer-to-peer sharing of information. So I described earlier on that due to the shared service operations being agnostic to center, there's a real enhanced opportunity to do this within this space versus some other environments. Now, earlier I made some sort of specific reference to the term webinar and how I wanted that to be sort of a loose term. And the reason is I'm really keen for this to be an interactive session, to give all the audience an opportunity to share, question, challenge some of our points and opinions, challenge other people's points and opinions versus sitting there just listening to some content. So whilst we are going to provide some of our thinking, and Simon's going to talk through some of his views and experiences for a few minutes at the outset, we'd then really like to encourage some questions afterwards. We're going to open it up to the audience that either we can look to answer, and more than happy for others on the line as well to answer based on their experience. I did describe at the beginning that this webinar is being recorded. However, you will see the facility on the toolbox on the right-hand side of your screen to actually raise your hand. So either type in a question, which we will monitor and look to respond, we'll put it out to the audience to respond, or to raise your hand to ask a question. We'll then unmute you and ask, based on some of your views, experiences, provocations that you might well have. The intent is for this session to be around 30 minutes. However, we have allowed a little longer if the discussion's flowing and everybody seems to be getting value from the discussion. So we'll be pretty open and flexible in relation to that. So with the diversity of, shared services leaders and operational leaders that we've got online, I'm sure that most of you will have started on the road to transformation and highly likely at varying levels of maturity or success. And we're increasingly seeing organizations focused upon initiating activities, using disruptive technology, enhancing their analytics capability. And whilst absolutely, in our view, these are valid and essential levers ultimately, we strongly believe that looking at single point solutions outside of consideration of the broader context can present risk by only delivering some short-term benefits or even worst case scenario, increased cost or poor service in the long run. So I briefly introduced you to Simon earlier on, but he's got some real significant experience in leading large-scale transformational programs. And it's going to share some of his views and experience with how you can all look at transforming shared service operations through a different lens.
Thanks, David, and a warm welcome to our audience today. So just to provide a little bit of context and by way of an introduction, I think so whilst all of us have different experience from our careers and the companies we've worked for and companies we work with, we're all consumers who access services from a wide range of providers as part of our daily lives. And as a result, we've all got examples of providers we like to use. And it's very likely that a core part of our reasoning for using those providers repeatedly is due to them delivering us a great experience when we receive the services or the goods that they provide that to us. And if we were to ask to describe why it was a great experience, I'm fairly confident we'd all cover a number of certain characteristics that are consistent, and they're likely to be that accessing or dealing with that provider was easy or low effort. It was available when we needed it to be available through a channel of our choice, and it provided as an essential a high value but an efficient service. And for us, that fulfillment of service is what we call the customer journey. So while a customer-focused viewpoint has delivered significant benefit and change for end customers, we believe that it's that this specific customer-centric lens that has the potential to improve the services that shared service operations can provide for their internal customers, and therefore enhancing the value that they deliver. So why is that relevant to shared service operations? Well, it makes sense for shared service operations to focus on their internal customers' experiences as they travel along those internal customer journeys to receive services. And as you all know, shared service operations have evolved from a place of being a pure cost reduction focus through typically economies of scale and wage arbitrage levers. And I'm sure that the challenge that many of you are facing is how do you now enhance the value further that you add to the business, and importantly, become a strategic partner. And we're going to talk a little bit about how this can be achieved from looking through this different lens in a couple of minutes. Clients ask, what's important when thinking about taking an internal customer journey approach to transforming shared services operations? And our view is that in order to be able to deliver great customer experience, firstly, a capability needs to be built in understanding the current experience and needs of internal customers. This is done through seeking, collecting, and analyzing the voice of those internal customers. Importantly, at this point, we need to recognize that there will be different types and different customer groups, and therefore they're likely to have different requirements, and those different needs need to be designed for. And therefore, that segmentation of those customers needs to be considered as we enter this approach. Often to deliver the desired experiences that get defined, a customer journey approach must be taken in our view. And it's important to design that journey from the customer's perspective to ensure it is seamless, effortless, and appropriate to their expectations. Now, critically, one of the points that we find repeatedly is that journey or those journeys need to be defined from the point that the customer realizes they have a need rather than at the point that they engage, because it's those activities that they have to undertake before they get to the point of engaging that need to be included within that journey design. And then to share some of our experience in terms of how to ensure success, there are a number of things that we find need to be avoided that could cause a customer journey design to fail. And so I think for the top four for me would be, there's a lack of understanding of the customer, and that's why we've referenced that customer experience management capability right at the outset. Importantly, and I know many of our clients and the research that we've shown, that it's essential that an end-to-end view, both from a journey and a process perspective, is taken. We must avoid not incorporating multiple channels for the way our internal customers can interact, and we must avoid not taking a non-holistic approach. And I'll come on to that point as well a little bit later on. Key to the journey designs and those underlying processes that deliver the experience will be the use of intelligent automation. And this is likely to be drawing on technologies which are going to include improvements in user interface design, robotic process automation, and machine learning. Now, as we know, these technologies will improve accuracy, speed, and also reduce the human effort required to deliver services. But an important additional benefit is that the use of those technologies significantly improves the ability to collect data automatically on the interactions that are taking place in the business. Now, we see that value can be achieved from shared service operations investing in analytics to turn that data into insight. And crucially, that starts to support the goals of shared service operations, adding greater value, both by increasing service, but also by making that transition to becoming a strategic partner through the ability to provide insight out into the wider business. So just by way of an example to bring that to life, this is an example of some work that we've done with a client in the travel industry. And again, what we help them with here is, and typical to many, is that multiple different data sources from multiple systems, which was becoming a bit of a blocker to understanding all the data in a single place and be able to turn it into insight. So we help them with their refining that data, cleaning it up, creating a golden source from a data warehouse, and then providing the services to them to build the analytics dashboards, of which this is an example. And now they're using this tooling and this information both to be able to identify where they need to address improvement opportunities to improve their service, but also they're now finding that they can use it as a predictive tool as well, where they start to see interaction in certain areas that they know that they can start to move and flex resources into other areas, because that's the typical cascade from those interactions. So I've talked about quite a few parts here. So, and I guess the question needs to be considered. We've talked about customer journeys, but are there any other aspects that need to be considered? So I think you'll agree that the implications of the internal customer journey approach that we've talked about is going to potentially impact various parts or a number of elements of your operating model. So at Go Beyond Partners, we have a holistic operating model definition and a methodology, and it's made up from the visual that you can now see on the screen are the central elements and the surrounding component parts. So for us, to ensure that the operating model has considered how all those parts are going to work together, we start in the middle. So it's about defining those service propositions. And once those have been defined, we then immediately just determine how those need to be experienced from the internal customer's perspective. And that leads us into the salmon pink segment as we work clockwise around this model, where we start to define those internal customer journeys and those end-to-end processes that are going to sit underneath them. And then this often leads us to having to think about how we may need to restructure and align to those internal customers. As we look further around that circle, and we've talked about already, there are a number of options now from a technology perspective that we can start to bring to both those processes, and that is going to impact both the skills, but also the the way that we resource and deliver those processes and journeys, as we talked about. Now, and then we continue. And the first half, for me, always the first three, or the first half of this model, talk about the hard elements, and then we get into the softer parts of running a high performance operation. And this is very much the approach that we took when we were engaged to deliver the transformation of the shared service operations of a global client following their significant merger, when we were able to deliver both greater user experience and more strategic value to the business, whilst also optimizing their operating model to deliver the integration targets that they'd set themselves.
Simon, thanks. Been some really interesting insights there. I think earlier on we, I guess, set the scene for this discussion about the shift in narrative where shared service operations are striving to become value-add business partners versus, I guess, the historical context of a cost center. So maybe you can help the audience a little bit with how, looking through this lens, how's that really going to help drive and achieve that objective?
Okay, well, from our view, the benefits of using this approach are multifaceted. So to pick some benefits categories, because the operating model is being designed around delivering great customer experience, it therefore focuses on the activities and processes that internal customers most value, and that always allows us to enhance the level of human interaction in those value-adding services, and also at the same time is providing focus for where intelligent automation can be applied for activities that aren't as highly valued and are just expected to work really well and simply, often in a self-serve manner. Also, when we start to think about applying the most appropriate technology in a way that our internal customers are going to value, we start to use that technology, we improve accuracy, and we're creating capacity through automation. And also that data that I've talked about and how important it is starts to be generated. And that brings me back to my earlier point again, which is through analytics and converting that into insight, we're starting to provide greater value and insight to the wider business to help the wider business make better strategic decisions. I think also this approach, and we're going to need to build some new capabilities, is going to provide that platform for shared service operations to become an effective innovation and the driver of transformation within the business, particularly around some of these targeted technologies that we've talked about to test, prototype, and build out. Now, again, taking a customer or an internal customer journey perspective and improving experience also is going to improve employee experience, both within the shared service operations and wider, which will be an important metric for executives across businesses.
Okay, no, thank you, Simon. Just going to put it out to the audience now and just see if anybody's got any specific questions, thoughts, insights in relation to that. If you'd want to raise your hand, I can see we've got one there. So is it Mariella Richeza?
Yeah, hi guys. It's really interesting because it really does kind of push the boundaries on what we traditionally thought shared service should do. And I love the whole experience piece. And you mentioned capability, but actually what does that really mean? Like from a people perspective, from a talent perspective, realistically, what does that mean in terms of hiring, managing, this is a different skill set than what we traditionally hired for. And I mean, my own experience in working, my organization now and others is that, we're hiring really great, talented young people, and they don't want to come in and process POs, So what's your experience on what that will mean from an organizational perspective?
It's a great question. Thanks, Mariella.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me talk about that. So I think there's going to be a number of human factors that are going to have to be considered and managed. So let's pick some of those off. So I think importantly, the shared service operation is redefining the way it's working with its internal customers, and it's that, that shift to a role of greater value. There's going to be some key skill sets or key capabilities that they're going to have to build, because they're likely not to exist, but may do in some cases. I think that first one, and it's the one we always start with, is this ability to understand and manage customer experience through continually measuring and monitoring the internal customer's experience and their levels of satisfaction, not only to initiate the initial designs, but then continually make sure that they're aligned, fit for purpose, and delivering the services that are required within the business. Additionally, because this customer journey approach is new, skills and resources to both design and deliver those customer journeys and the improvements for the underlying end-to-end processes and transformation skills are also going to be required. And then additionally, we're getting into end-to-end process management. So if that's being driven through shared service operations, that's also going to be an area of skill that needs to be developed. I think importantly, we talked about that shift from not only increased value, but also the shift to becoming a more strategic partner with the wider business. And for us, this is really centered on that capability both to create the data, access all of the accurate data, bring it together, perform the necessary analytics on that data, and turn it into insights. So that is also going to be a key skill set. Now, and then to pick up your point, Mariella, about the point around the bright talent that you're bringing into your organization, there's two parts here. So we know that the use of intelligent automation in the shared service environment and also outside of it, there's two opportunities here. One is that building of the capability to design, deliver, and manage the intelligent automation, but that is also going to take away a lot of the lower value add sort of manual rules-based processes that people don't really enjoy doing, and needing you to have a resource pool that has a higher skill set around diagnostics and customer service or internal customer service. So I think I probably covered 4 or 5 there, but I think we see those as the most important shifts around the human factors.
Yeah, and I guess my next sort of natural question then is, then how do we do that? Where have you guys seen it, or how have you done it in terms of making that shift happen? Because I think it's an important step, and I think we're looking at it right now, and so I'm just curious. I don't want to hog the floor, but curious to understand then how do you go about doing that?
Okay, yeah, great. I think there's 2 ways. Well, there's a few ways, but let me pick out a couple of the main ones. The first one, let me talk about that analytics, because I did show an example earlier. So the way that we have worked with our clients to support them with that challenge around, we've got multiple data sources from disparate systems, they don't join up, and therefore it's a real challenge for us to do the right analysis, turn that into insight. We've worked with clients we bring our specialism in that area to bring together those data sources, identify and close gaps where they exist, set up that analytics capability, and turn it into something that's very useful and becoming operational. And then we provide that as a managed service, and then we also always offer the client the ability to transition to owning that. So we build it in the client and hand it over. Another way that we support organizations is, we have a number of learning and development for managers and leaders programs, which involves both skills development as well as coaching, particularly around building the high performance environment that's going to be required to operate in these new style of operations. And again, we run programs to come in, work with, build capability, help deploy it and make it happen before the business takes it on and continues to deliver the benefit. So there are a couple of examples.
Right.
Thanks, Mary. There's some great questions there. Does that help answer some of your points or questions you had?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mariella. So I think, John, we've got John Ainsworth on the line as well. John, you just raised your hand. Is there a question that you wanted to ask us?
It wasn't actually a question, thank you. I just typed in the box that I was happy to share my own personal experience. It's John Ainsworth. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Atos Business Transformation Services. So we do a lot of outsourcing where people's, for example, two of our big clients, Aegon and National Savings Investments, outsource their operations to us. And we work extensively with Go Beyond. And so I just thought, in response to the question that you just asked, and that I could just kind of back up a part of what was shared in terms of the training programs and so on, because Go Beyond helped us with a full organization restructure, and as part of that was the use of the training programs that were referred to build the capability for people moving into either new roles or new ways of working within an existing role. And we completed that organization restructure in our operations part of our business probably about 18 months ago, and delivered an extensive return on investment, an improvement in employee engagement, and an improvement in customer, i.e. end customer satisfaction. So it was just an endorsement for the example that was just shared.
John, well, that's much appreciated, and thank you.
Check in the post, yeah.
Thank you for in the post, John. Thank you for sharing that with the wider group. I know we're getting quite close to time. Are there any other burning questions or experiences that anybody would like to share?
So I think, Simon, we've just had one come in via the chat. So we all know any significant change program, how is going to be a challenge. How easy is it for organizations to shift direction and look through the customer lens?
Well, I think you've started to answer that question. This is a change program, yeah, and a significant one, and therefore it comes with the standard challenges of change. I think because this is the shared services reaching out into the wider business, often the activities sit at the end of a value stream. There is going to be absolutely that need for senior leader engagement and commitment across, or end to end across these journeys, and therefore it does need to be linked to business strategy. The other part, I think, is we will expect an operating model change to help to set the shared service operations up to deliver this. But I think importantly, the fact that this is about improving internal customer experience across the business really gives it something that people can get behind and support. So whilst it will be challenging, I think there's a really strong message of there's a real win in all parties taking an approach like this.
Great, thank you. I don't think there's any other questions come in, so I'll just sort of one final. We've slightly overrun from the original 30-minute time slot. Just wanted to sort of put that out there. If there's any further questions, thoughts, insights that the broader group have, or alternatively any questions for Mariella or John, who've obviously made some points as well. Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I guess finally, huge thank you from us in terms of taking the time out to join today. I guess the intention really was, as I outlined at the beginning, is just trying to sort of open people's minds to the need for a different mindset, and a different viewpoint, how we can sort of fuse that human touch alongside some of the disruptive technology that's coming out, obviously and increasingly prevalent and prominent now, and how shared service leaders can start to identify other ways of being able to deliver maximum value to the business. So I hope we've helped answer some questions around that point for you. As I referenced at the beginning, we have recorded this webinar, so we are going to be sending that out to all the audience. Really open for some feedback in relation to the value from the webinar. Any thoughts on some of the content, any other questions, but look forward to speaking to you all again soon.